Welcome to Sports Doc Talk. I'm Will Sanchez, along with our orthopedic surgeon and sports medicine specialist, Dr. Grant Garcia. He is not only a pretty face, he is not someone that you're just going to listen to and watch on social media, but he is one of the top doctors out there. So check out his credentials. Dr. Garcia, how are you?
I'm fairly certain that intro changes every single time. I have no idea where it's going. So I just have to sit there and smile. I'm good. Yeah, no, it's a scorching day in Seattle, but super nice. So we're lucky we're soaking up the last few weeks of summer. So
100%. And as the title showed, we're going to talk a little bit about the 2025 kickoff. We're going to get into some key injuries for some of the players, and we're just going to have some fun banter because this is what we do. It's football season. I'm super excited about the season because as some of you know, we are miserable New York Giants fans. And once a while, long time ago, we were very happy with our team, celebrating Super Bowl championships after defeating the New England Patriots. But we've been suffering.
That was a long time ago.
And I don't know about you. It hurt a little bit. I felt good for him, but it hurt a little bit to see Saquon win a championship, more because he was with the Eagles than anyone else. So I'm still trying to get over the season. What are your expectations for the Giants before we kick off this show?
I mean, the problem is that they're so hyped right now. They're like they're so hyped. This is like one of the best I've ever seen the introductions for the team. I think the challenge will be like we'll see what happens in those first few games. The NFC East is tough. They have 3 really good teams they play against now, and there's no schmuck quarterbacks or anything. I mean, it's legit. Every team is legitimate.
Yeah, they ranked the New York Giants as the hardest schedule for this upcoming season out of all 32 teams.
That's what they need for doing so poorly last year.
Exactly. You had the worst record where here's the hardest schedule. Go off and beat somebody. They've got the Chiefs. They've got the Lions, Minnesota, the NFC East, the AFC West. It is going to be a gauntlet. And, you know, if I have trouble sitting there on Sunday trying to recover from the pain and misery, hopefully not from the Giants, this is not the same, but it's a weird segue. Let's shout out to the recovery shop. Can they help me recover on a bad Sunday?
They might be able to. They've got all sorts of things. So, you know, the nice thing is that this is, again, even today I had patients asking about this. So, you know, for surgeons, it's nice to offer to your patients. They can use this for things extra they want, right? They want to have a nice machine. They want to do rebliss. They want to have other different innovative tools to get them back. We're starting potentially working on more nutrition supplementation and other things as well. So it's all part of this sort of package deal you can have for your recovery. And the patients have been elated with the service. And I have been as well as a surgeon to give it to my patients and hear about it. So it's just another thing that makes that whole post-operative recovery process good. So thanks again for our sponsors.
And shout out to Mike B at the recovery shop. So please reach out to Mike B. He can help everyone out there. So we can't thank Mike and that entire team enough. Listen, 2025 is going to be real interesting. Before we get into some of these injuries, we're going to have a little bit of fun. We're going to talk a little bit of tech. We'll talk about some injuries. This is not a fantasy football show, but if you're a fantasy football fan and some of the people that we talk about help you make a decision whether you're going to grab them in the first round or maybe you hold up to the second, hey, listen, we can help you in many different ways. But looking at the 2025, we have some NFL fun facts. The international games, we know that football is global, is king of sports, at least here in the United States of America. Soccer rules the world globally, but for us here, it is football. League record 7 games. Oh, look at this. What's that game up there? Chiefs versus Chargers. Where they're playing at, Dr. Garcia?
Sao Paulo.
What are your thoughts on that one?
That's pretty cool. That's going to be awesome. That's that's a big deal. That's a long flight, though. That is a long flight. But that'll be really interesting. Sao Paulo's off to the hit. I mean, they do the F1 in November. So they've been really big. And they had a game there, or didn't they have a game there last year or 2 years ago? I thought the Eagles played at some point, if I remember correctly. But maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm not sure. If not, I would be lying. But the fact that they're getting them, you can't have enough good games at Dublin. Obviously, we see a lot of college football games. They've been going out there. I know Notre Dame is a big fan of going out there. Lots of Guinness. We have a good time. Madrid. I love Madrid. I love Spain. Dolphins and the Commanders. I'm hoping that the Dolphins win, knock out the Commanders, because like we said, we're Giants fans, and we could, anytime we can get a loss from one of those NFC East teams, we appreciate it. London 3 times, Berlin once. Real quick, this is not the topic of the show, but concerns with doctors, team doctors, when you're traveling so much, you're traveling so far, making sure the recovery. What are some of the things, or at least highlight one specific thing that a team doctor will make sure that their players are doing?
I mean, as a team physician, your biggest concern is not really the injuries, but rather sort of the sleep performance. And we've talked about this. We should probably get someone who manages sleep and athletes, because I think that would be a really good thing. I know we have some other episodes coming up that talk about the mental aspects, but the sleep is no joke. I mean, that is one of the hardest things for these athletes to deal with, is how you change the sleep time zones. I mean, I do a lot of consulting things, and I'm flying 24 hours down to Florida and back. And that isn't a joke. And again, I'm having to perform mentally, maybe a little bit physically, but not constantly doing that. I mean, the time zone is a big deal. I mean, they're probably going to leave. I think they leave a little bit earlier, right? If it's probably a few extra days. But generally they make them come right back on that next flight out for the following thing. So it's hard. I mean, the good news is they're all younger and healthier than we are, so they can handle it a bit better. But that's a topic in of itself, is the challenges of sleep. We brought it up once before, I think, or a couple times in our show. But that is a big deal.
Yeah, I mean, we think it's important to just kind of highlight, but that's part of the recovery, and that, that's part of everything that these players are concerned about, or could possibly lead to injuries. Quarterback carousel, 12 new starters. Who knows? It might be more. We just know that that's kind of the way here in Seattle. Sam Darnold goes from Minnesota Vikings, now the starting quarterback for the Seahawks. The Raiders get, those old Seahawks quarterback. He's there. And our old friend Daniel Jones, he's going to be the starter for the Indianapolis Colts. So lots of moving and shaking. I mean, Aaron Rodgers with the Steelers, you name it, lots of storylines.
This is just the classic NFL. It's just to shake around the box, grab the quarterback, and hope that there's a chance he's better than the last time we got them. So, I will see. I mean, it worked with Sam Darnold, but it's unfortunately the roulette doesn't always work in everybody's favor. So hopefully the fresh start for the Giants is the one that wins out.
Yep, and we'll have Russell Wilson. We'll see how long he stays there before they'll start calling for the Dart Man, Jason Dart. So anyway, let's talk about this. We want to talk about some of the NFL tech. And this was really fascinating, because the NFL always, staying ahead of technology. They're using different tech for their players, for their organizations. I think it was a year ago, something like that. I was making fun of the urinals. That's a whole other conversation. If anybody want to go back,
my favorite NFL tech. That is my favorite still.
Monitoring hydration there with the urinals. But to kick it off, the Catapult GPS with speed, load, and fatigue. Why don't you talk about this and how that's beneficial to some of these teams as they're partnering with Catapult for the monitoring?
I mean, the one thing you always know is like all these teams that go after the NFL first, or these companies, right? Because if they can get them on board, they're willing to spend the money for their players to give them a little bit of an edge. And everyone's looking for that. I mean, you go into these team locker rooms and they've got tech you've never seen before. They're like, oh, this is a startup. This company's a startup, and we're trying to get this. So the idea here is obviously you're using this GPS wearable technology. And then you're really going to get a lot more detailed information. Like, again, like how fast you're doing, what kind of load are you putting on the body. And then by that, there's some calculations that can do algorithms to determine fatigue. And I think the key here is we always say, like, as a physician on the team, you want to know when the player is too fatigued. It's very hard to figure that out. And so if we can find an algorithm or proprietary information that'll tell us, hey, this player is like pretty close to getting injured. Or like, you know what I mean? Like you've seen it in the NFL, you've seen it you've seen it in all levels of football. The players you're out, and the coach is yelling them to come out, and they're like, screw you, I'm staying in. Right. Like, so it's the same thing with the concussions, right? They have the helmets, not as much in the NFL, but our high school team, our trainer has a helmet monitor, right? When they get hit really hard, we'll know before the player will know.
Yeah.
And so the idea is that, like, can we track all these things in real time? Because as much as they're players, they're owned by the NFL teams, and there's a lot of money on stand. If they get hurt, which will show about how much the injuries cost, it is a massive amount of money. So can we find a way to reduce injuries? And yeah, he's listen, this person needs this guy needs 2 downs, right? We use him on first. Let's save him for third or fourth, or on the fourth down we're going for it or something. So it's really important, all that stuff. I think that the other tech you want to talk about, that next one's going to be really interesting, because that is something that's more universal, I think, with a lot of people.
Yeah, and right before I get to that, and I know that you're on the orthopedic side, so you're kind of getting them, after the injury has happened. But is there anything that you're doing, or at least the people that you're working with, whether it's a watch or Whoop or anything like that, that you're kind of incorporating, or at least the partners that you have are incorporating for the regular, the regular Joes that are trying to recover?
I think the answer is we're always looking for something, but the problem you have is the market's really saturated, right? The challenge here is, like, if I go and sell a watch, I'm competing with Apple, right? Like, there was an article I read about one guy that had a fitness app, and he was basically bankrupt until LeBron James happened to be the one of 200 people that bought the watch. Wow. And it was like his last dollar. And LeBron James, like, showed it off in a commercial by accident. And he went from that to like $100 million in like a couple weeks by accident, because just LeBron James happened to be wearing his device. So, and I've worked and I've been part of discussions with, as a on being social media presence and being on the podcasting. I get emails all the time for new tech saying, hey, you want to look at my new product, this, that, and that. And, it's really common. So unfortunately, there is a lot of stuff that we do. So it's always hard to tell and to get really involved in one particular thing. And I think that that's where more of the physical therapy side of things in people coming injuries, but also it's just really about stuff like this, right? Can we talk online and say, hey, listen, you really need to be using your watch. Like, your heart rate's dropped, like, but we just don't have enough good stuff out there yet. It's all really expensive, and it requires, subscription based, and it also requires someone, to algorithm to do it in. Like, what they really need to do is, like, partner with a place like Apple or Fitbit or things like that. And you basically wear it on your wrist, and it says you're getting fatigued. Like, you were at a 64% chance of injury, like from the Minority Report type of, like, computer algorithms, like AI, right? Can we predict regular people getting injured? Like, you're skiing and, like, you're just out of control. Like, your legs are gassed. Like, you're not firing everything in sync. But again, there's so many different muscles they have to monitor, but can you think about different things? So, like, maybe we're coming up with an idea. Maybe we just let on some information that we shouldn't have, but who knows? So anyhow.
Yeah, I love the example that you just gave, because I remember one time I went back up snowboarding. I was like, I got one more ride in me, and I got up there and I maybe got a quarter of the way down, and I was like, oh no, like my legs were getting shaky. And I was like, I still got to get off this mountain. And I should have stopped when I was still feeling good. I should have went to the clubhouse, get the hot cocoa, kind of relax, wait for the friends to finish off their last run instead of pushing it. Anyway, I digress. This is what happens. This is what we do. Let's hop on to the next tech. On the underwater treadmills, joint protection, things like that. Let's talk about this joint protection and benefits of having these underwater treadmills, especially for these NFL teams.
This is huge. I mean, we were in the White Sox. They had underwater pools. The underwater treadmills are expensive, but they're really nice. It's almost, I actually would think this is a little bit better than the G treadmills. You guys know those, they're very hard to find, but you basically strap yourself in and it lowers the resistance you can have on there. I've had a couple high-level players, soccer players and basketball players that are basically almost pro level to pro level, and you use this, and you can see the recovery difference is huge, right? But again, the challenge here is, like, how do you get access to this? Like, I'll be honest with you, outside of working with the teams, I've never even seen an underwater treadmill. So, like, it's not like you go to the gym and you're like, oh, there it is, right? Like, it's expensive. Like, they have these treadmills actually for dogs that go underwater, but I don't think it's the same caliber. But nonetheless, the idea is that obviously it's just like blood flow restriction, right? You want to put load on the joint, you want to have mobility on the joint without putting a lot of load. Right. So when I tell patients, like, you need 25% of your weight on the joint, well, when you get in the water, you lose a lot of that weight, right? It's buoyant. And so can you do this therapy, low load the joint, not cause inflammation, and then get stronger, right? The whole key between, like, PRP and all these other injections is,
Yep.
can we find a way to get that knee to not be so swollen so that you can strengthen the area around it, and then therefore you can recover back to the level you were at without having continued setbacks? I mean, like I have multiple patients today that are recovering from my surgeries. You know, the number one complaint was like, hey, my knee still feels a little bit swollen. It still feels a little bit sore. I feel like I can't get the strength I want back because it's still a little bit bothersome. That's part of the normal recovery. But women have found a way to reduce that, right? If all these patients just went to the underwater treadmill, they could get it back. So this is a big deal. Now, again, we've talked to, and we will talk to more strength coaches for professional teams, right? And these strength coach professional teams will tell you that everyone has different philosophy, right? There's a general philosophy, but these strength and conditioning coaches, which we don't want to let onto new episodes coming up, but we've had a few we've talked to, and that, you know, if they have a different philosophy, they'll say, hey, I think the underwater treadmill is best for me. This is best for me, you know, type of thing. So they're not always going to have the same stuff. Now, again, they're very competitive, right? So if someone's like, yeah, the Chiefs have it, I'm sure the other teams are going to be considering it. So,
oh yeah, definitely. Force plates, jump asymmetry. We're going to talk about that. They're saying that the teams are known to use force plate plate testing. Talk about force plates and how they're so beneficial for recovery.
Yeah, well, this is huge. I mean, we just saw this recently. You probably saw when we showed the promo video for Driveline, and you saw the guys jumping. That's the force plates.
Yeah.
So the idea behind this is obviously asymmetry is a humongous problem. I mean, especially for soccer players, right? That increases the risk of ACL. Like when females, they land in valgus. So I had, 3 female, or more than that, maybe 4 female ACLs just today, this morning.
Jesus.
And they were all young females, and they probably landed in, they were injuries like on the field, somewhere hit, somewhere but females are a much more common risk. And so something like this, in athletes, to find how you're landing, so that's a preventative situation. But also for professional athletes, especially for these professional teams, if the player's like, oh, I feel great, but they're like, wait a second, no, you're not great, right? Like, this thing is off from this one. And when we look at testing, we generally do asymmetry for ACLs and recovery. And so if your strength is down, your power's down, you have imbalances in that one knee, you're not ready to go back, right? Even from a short period of time. But the most commonly studied injury is ACLs, but there's so many of the things that we do, and there's so many long recoveries. Like, it's really important for you to have this. And the jump asymmetry is that whole motion from the initial takeoff to landing. And that's really where the power comes from. So you really want to make sure you're powering the whole leg appropriately.
Yeah, and that was a great segue to talk about, if you haven't checked out our episode with Driveline, that's a good one. So check that one out as well. We're going to go on to the next one, sleep trackers. We've talked about this in the past. I got to be honest with you. Sometimes they make me a little bit nervous. I got to be honest. I wake up, I saw that I didn't sleep as well. So obviously, if you're going to work out, it kind of tells you, take it easy.
Phone alerted.
But at the same time, it makes me a little bit nervous going, I hope I got a good night's sleep, because if not, it makes me feel a certain way. I don't know. I'm a little bit weird. I don't know if anybody else feels that way. But when it comes to sleep trackers, great to know how I'm going to prepare for the activity level in my day and how hard I'm going to hit the gym. But at the same time, there's kind of like this competitive thing going, I want to hit an X amount of % on my sleep recovery. There it is.
I don't think that you're weird. I think that that's exactly what your other co-host does. So I think that what you're feeling is totally normal. That's the point of these apps, right? They get you hooked. They get you, you're like addicted to your sleep. But the problem you have is that we had a while ago now, maybe multiple years, we had someone come in who used to be a Navy SEAL, and they do a lot of corporate stuff. So as for surgeons, we're known for high stress environments, very similar to some of the stressful things. Yeah. And they do a lot of stuff with professionals like that, or athletes, and help them get their stuff back. So companies will kind of monitor the sleep and actually help working with your staff and say, hey, listen, you've got 6 surgeons on your staff, or you've got 20 players or 53 players on your team, and half of them are like totally underslept. Right. So that is actually a huge deal. This will be a good topic. Maybe we can add this later, Will, but longevity, right? That's just athletics, but in longevity, read an article, just top 10. We won't go through all of them, but one of the number one things is outside of exercise was sleep. You're writing it down. I like it. Yeah. But the sleep issue is humongous, and it's the one that we can do it's kind of messed up, but it's actually one of the easiest of all the things that we can do for optimization. But it's also the hardest because it means we can't be doing fun stuff. We have to sleep. We have to like go to bed early. We have to like prioritize. And even though I continually harp on this, and I know that if I get 1 more hour of sleep, I think I'll perform better. And I can know when my numbers go from, you know, I'm like a 7, I'm a 6, a low 6s. I can get through 1 or 2 days, but I really need to be a 7.
Yeah.
And if I get 8, I'm like killing it. Right. But 8 might be too much if I'm hyped up before surgery. So I'm more like a 7. See, I know my numbers. So the fact is, like, when if I hit 5 3 days in a row, that's a disaster. And so if you're an athlete, it's the same way, but you don't know it until you're tracking it, right? Like I used to never know it until I had my Apple Watch. And now I kind of know. And and you're right, but there is definitely a mental component. Like, am I looking and saying, oh God, it says 5 hours and 30 minutes. Like that's not good.
Yeah.
Right. And I don't know how well they work, because I feel like sometimes I get less sleep than it actually says I did and things like that. But I definitely know that it gets me, I think it alerts you more to it, and it makes you more aware, and it prioritizes something that's a very simple fix. And so it makes perfect sense to me why sleep quality and duration is so important. And I hate to say it, but my patients ask me all the time, like, what else can I do? And like, this should be brought up, right? Like, you can sleep more during your recovery, and you got to find ways to do that. You got to be active. You got to, shut down the electronics an hour before. You got to get clear of the mind. I mean, there's nothing like the worst possible thing I ever do in the last few weeks was check my email 2 minutes before I went to bed and found an email that made me frustrated some reason or another. I mean, it had to happen to me last week. It was the stupidest thing ever. And so you can't do that stuff to yourself. You really have to you have to really focus on just clear your mind.
It's hard. It's amazing. Like you've heard Mark Wahlberg talk about, I go to bed at 8 a.m. and I wake up at 8 p.m. and wake up at 4 a.m. and I go work out and train and go eat and go back and train and work out and sleep. And that, when you go on, the David Goggins of the world and so many other high-level athletes or performers, I'm envious that they're able to be so dedicated and get to bed and get X amount of sleep. Now, I don't know if they're lying. I don't know if it's just the social media, where they're saying they're doing X, Y, and Z. And, maybe most of the time they are and they're not. But it's a hard thing. As you preface it, it's easy, it's simple, but it's not. So
I think actually we should try to find a sleep expert. This is going to be really good.
I have it right now. Sleep and longevity. We're ready to go. We're definitely ready to go.
So the sleep. So one more thing on the sleep. So another thing is they showed professional athletes, and some of the best athletes in the world like sleep a ton. Ronaldo, they said he does 14 hours a day. Now, again, I don't know how that's possible.
Is he a dad? I don't know.
We need to show the sleep, but there's a sleep bar graph. I know we're going off topic, but there's a sleep bar graph which we need to show the viewers at some point, and it shows a bell curve. And there's majority of people are in the 7 to 8. There are people in the 9 to 10 and 11 hours. I know my best friend is actually a 10-hour person, which is unusual. Yeah, it's crazy. Yes, I know. And he'd be laughing if he heard me talking about this, but he is a solid 9 to 10. Every time we were college roommates, it was 9 to 10 hours. Solid. And there is people on that bell curve, but there are also people which have these special abilities that can do 4 to 5. And so this will be a great topic to come up with later, because I kind of love this idea. I love thinking about this because I always wish I was a 4 to 5, but unfortunately the 4 to 5 also live shorter. So there is a whole nother discussion topic.
My wife has an incredible skill set that she can take a nap. We could stay up for an hour and then it'll be like bedtime, and she can go back to bed and not have any issues. I take a nap. I'm up to 2 o'clock in the morning. I don't know how she does it. It's her superpower. It's amazing.
It's a superpower. It's your wife, and you just shouldn't ask questions. That's the problem. The problem is that you're even thinking about it.
I'm making sure she's not looking at me.
I think she follows us. We might be screwed right here. We're going to have to mute this out.
That's all right. Okay, I will. I'm going to edit this out. All right, let's talk about helmet sensors. We've talked about the helmets. We've talked about the Guardian. There's so much that's kind of going toward the helmet, toward the sensors. Let's just kind of get into a little bit more about that and the benefits of the helmet sensors and how teams are utilizing them. I put this together. It said the NFL had a pilot program using helmet sensors to measure impacts, but this was suspended due to concerns over data accuracy. And we're going to get into that real quick, and reliability, according to Science and ESPN. While the specific program was halted, the league continues to research and invest in advanced concussion assessment tools, including eye tracking technology and impact sensing mouth guards. Dr. Garcia, when it comes to accuracy and reliability, that's one thing. And then going into the other assessment tools, what are your thoughts on that?
I don't mean to smile, but I'm smiling because this happened to us on our teams. So we had the tracking sensors, the impact sensors. And one time my trainer looks at me and she goes, check this out. And like the player was just running around. It just showed they had a massive impact. So there is some inaccuracy in the sense that it might overcall things. Or sometimes it doesn't register it. Now, again, that was 3-year-old tech, not in the NFL. And so was it the top of the line? I don't know. The challenge you have obviously is they're getting hit. They have these like chips in them and registering. And you also got to be really careful, right? Because the last thing you want to do is pull out your player during a playoff game because it says they got hit really hard and they have no symptoms. And then you got to do a full assessment. So this is really complicated. And the other thing is like, what do you do with that data, right? Like if you see it and they get hit, but you know it's inaccurate, but now you've got it documented as a team physician that this player just had a massive hit, you kind of have to pull them out for medical legal reasons. So it's really tricky. And the NFL, obviously, there's a lot of money and there's both two sides to the story, right? There's the owners and the players association. Yeah. And so did the players want them tracking them? The players don't want to get pulled out because all of a sudden now they took 60 snaps instead of 70 or 80 snaps, and maybe they dropped their contract, right? And they're gonna be like, oh, well, you keep getting hits on the thing. So there's this is a business. This is a lot of money involved with this, and unfortunately, you want to protect the players, but at the same point, there may be situations where if you don't want to have mismanagement of the system or inaccuracies. So until it's perfect, it's going to be really challenging, and it's going to be a lot of work. But we know this is like always on the forefront of them because concussions, we've talked about this ad nauseum, especially with the recent 2 episode we had and other episodes we've had regarding this. Like this is their hot topic. If they could choose one thing to figure out and be done with, it'd be concussions.
Yeah, I agree. Over anything else, right? So, and that whatever. I'm not going to get into it because we've gotten into this discussion, and so anyway, I'm going to move on because we're already yapping for almost 28 minutes. So let's kind of show this here. The trends last year, apparently everything kind of went down a little bit. 17% overall, less concussions. Kickoff concussion, 43% with the new rule. So it's some of those, I'll just quick recap. You're no longer allowed to run down the field. You're no longer able to load up extra players on either side of the ball. It has to be the same amount of players. You're kicking off into a specific area, and then no one's starting to run until the ball is caught or lands in that area. So the collisions are less. You don't have someone running down 30, 40 yards the field before they smash into somebody. So that makes sense that the concussion rules have led to less concussions, a drop of 43%. Kickoff leg strains, it's really kind of interesting, 48%. Lower extremity strains in general, I don't know what to make of that. What does that mean, lower extremity strains? Is that just kind of fall under some
I think that's like hamstring, quad, Achilles, calf. And it makes sense, right? Because I'm assuming that's not just the kicker, but like you're going full, like those guys go so much faster than the average player. Cause like most time, like you're not getting a breakout, right? Like maybe the wide receivers are running for a route, but generally, unless there's an explosive play, they're not very far distances. But the kickoffs, you're just going as fast as you can. And a lot of those players aren't playing the rest of the game. Right. So they're not warmed up. And then they're like, let's just go as fast as we can to make my mark. I got to get the tackle. So they'll take me off special teams and put me in the regular game.
100%. And that is coached, right? You work with high school football teams. I've worked with high school football teams. That is something that we used to say, you run down there. And if you're the first one, be the first one down there running through the end zone. Even if you see them catch a ball, they're running through the end zone. So that kind of piggybacks. They're flying as fast as they can and having these collisions. We talk about cost, not only in this show, but on previous shows, the cost of injuries, right? We mentioned it when we were talking about basketball. And now we're talking about football. It's just some of the numbers there. Bucks, 23 million last year. 21 million for the Steelers. And this is not even true numbers to me. I think that some of these
I don't think
numbers,
those are true.
yeah, they're not.
Those are too low.
It's just a portion of some of those numbers, not including the ones that got hurt before the season started, that went right to the IR, things like that. So, but it becomes interesting as far as a topic of just saying injuries cost money. And NFL and every professional team are going to do everything possible to reduce injuries, whether it's tech, whether it's sleep, whatever it is, they're going to keep investing in that money.
Well, and I hate to say this, but no matter how expensive everything is, it's not near as expensive as the player getting hurt. So 100%. I know the cost of a lot of these things, and they are not even close to a 20 million.
Yeah.
They can't. They won't know what team's going to pay that money. But the fact is, you have something that's, we talk about the products on here. They're sometimes 200, 500,000. That's a lot of money for the average person.
Yeah.
But for an NFL player that's making $20 to $30 million a year, that's around. I mean, we talked about what before.
$55 million a year. What if he's out for the year? $55 million investment.
Or what about, we talked about this before with like LeBron spends $1 million a year on his thing. That's a rounding error for him. That's nothing. But you know how much he can get for that? A lot, because $1 million is still a lot of money. Yeah. And so as a result, these guys will do whatever it takes. And there's no number. We can go at nauseam different players. We probably don't have time to go through everything. But the idea behind this is like, if you find anything that reduces injuries, it's game changer. That's why the Guardian helmets blew up, right? He's like, reduce the concussions for practices. Increase it for certain players. Like, that's a big freaking deal. I mean, concussions are a nightmare.
Yeah. And, and we've seen it. We'll talk about a couple players and then we'll just kind of wrap it up. Obviously, our focus was on the tech and, some of the excitement about the NFL, but key players to kind of look at: Matthew Stafford, 37 years old, low back disc issues. He's had back issues in the past. He's played hurt, tough guy throughout his career. Long career. Concerned because, once again, a lot of money, starting quarterback for the Rams. If he stays healthy, they have a team that can be a playoff team. When I say low back disc issues, what is your red flag?
I mean, red flag is the idea behind, like, what's that? Not only is the disc out, but is there more damage to the two spaces and it becoming a little bit of arthritis in that area? And he has a disc. He's getting injections, probably getting PRP. He's doing traction. He's doing all sorts of fancy things under the sun, but he's not going to get a surgery in, right? So if he's got nerve issues, if he, lower back pain from disc can happen. That's really common. And the nerve issues are the bigger problem, right? Because if he starts getting nerve weakness, he herniates more. Like, those are bigger issues. And we know we've had a couple other high level players in the basketball realm. It's just recurrent, right? And those things are nasty. I mean, disc, I've had this before. It's horrible. Yeah. And so the idea is, like, you really don't want to do it. You don't want to have, if you can. And obviously, of all the injuries, like, you have an injured arm or something, he can still throw. You get a little bit of a leg injury, you can still push through. But lower back, like, everything's involved with that. So anyhow, it's not a great thing. But these tend to be more chronic, and I bet you'll play through it. He'll get an epidural, make it 4 or 5 games, throw one more epidural in there. They'll get him through the season with this, most likely.
You've had back issues, you've had back pain. How does a 275-pound man running at you and then hitting you and laying on top of you? How does your back feel when I say that?
Well, if you're paying me $55 million, I might change my response. But if I had to just take that hit and not get anything for it, I think the answer is that I'd be pretty terrified.
Oh man, Tyreek Hill, one of the most explosive wide receivers in the NFL. He's coming back from an oblique injury, right? This core injury for an explosive wide receiver, not a big framed player. I'm not sure if that matters, whether the size of the player, but what are some of the concerns with this type of injury?
Well, these injuries suck. That's all I got to say. I mean, so the answer is that, like, the problem with the obliques is people don't realize is, like, all your power comes from your core, right? Like, they're like, use your core. Mm-hmm. So these oblique injuries, these rib injuries, the intercostal injuries, they are really, really tough. They're painful. There's really nothing you could do. I can tell you this because I just recovered from one of these. I was foiling and I fell at 20 miles an hour and I had a bad intercostal, and I thought it was totally fine, right? I could push through it. And after the week of trying to push through it, it just got worse and worse and worse. You couldn't do core exercises. You can't do anything. You can't run. You can't lift. even though every other part of your body feels good, it's literally just hurts to do anything. So this is going to be a challenge for him. He relies on speed, right? That explosive speed that he has.
Change the direction. Yep.
The other challenge is that they're usually not fixed, and you just sit there and wait for them. Now, again, the challenge is which type of core injury. There's lots of core muscles, so if it's something that he can get through, maybe he'll push through it.
What's the
They'll wrap him,
likelihood
they'll
of
tape him.
re-injury?
I mean, if he doesn't want to wait for it to re-injure, it does it to heal. It could happen continually, and then it could full tear. Now, again, it depends, right? There's always like 3 levels of most of these. There's like the partial tear, there's like, or the like small tiny tear. There's a near full tear, and then full tear. Full tear is usually surgery. Again, depends on this area. Probably has a 1 or 2, probably more like a 2 if they're bringing it up. But I mean, generally these do end up returning to stuff. So I think it's just going to be a little bit of a challenge.
This player is not going to play this season. Rashawn Slater, he signed a massive contract with the Chargers, trying to protect their quarterback. As we talk about injuries for quarterbacks, the patella tendon rupture, even though he's not going to play, it's something that's kind of right up your alley. So I wanted to bring it up. What does that entail, especially for a man that size? He's going to miss the entire season. That patella tendon rupture, how does that affect him going forward?
I mean, this used to be the player killer, right? I mean, with this before some newer techniques, this was a 50% return to sport. So one of the lowest in the NFL. I've talked about this before on previous, I think, radio shows. And then I think we had it on here a while ago. But this is not a good one. The good news is that we've got some new stuff. I mean, they'll do the standard repair. We've got videos even on the website of how we do this kind of enhanced repairs. Now we add internal braces if done correctly. It's a little bit trickier to set the internal brace of this because it's so much flexion. So you don't want to obviously put an internal brace that doesn't move. But there are lots of tricks that these docs can do with some newer implants and techniques. And we have definitely seen a higher return to sport over the last few years with this injury. So I wish him well, but this is a solid 7-8 months.
Let's talk Christian McCaffrey. I'm kind of jumping around. I have a long list of injuries, but for time, I'm going to jump around and kind of key on some of the top players. Christian McCaffrey, 49ers running back, all-pro stud, coming off the season that he sustained an Achilles injury. We're going to talk about some of the recovery a little bit later on. What are some of the concerns? He's had quite a few injuries, even though his production has been high. He's had a lot of injuries throughout his career. What are some of the concerns with that Achilles injury besides, what we've normally talked about?
I mean, the challenge with him is it's not a full rupture, right? So it's just like dealing with the inflammation. Bilateral tendonitis is not ideal, and this is also a guy, like you said, he's very productive, but he continues getting injured. I mean, it took him people couldn't figure out what was going on with him for weeks.
Yeah.
Right. He just wasn't back. Right. That's never good. Like, the thing is, if they're not publicizing what he has, they might not know how to fix it. And that's the problem.
What does that mean, bilateral Achilles tendonitis? Just for the people that don't really understand what that means.
I mean,
Achilles,
I'll be honest,
is clear, right? But what does that mean?
I mean, Achilles tendonitis is basically like it continues to hurt. The idea of that tendonitis means that there's inflammation in the tendon. So he's just got, every time he's running, there's probably pain in the back of his ankle. The challenge is, right, like, is this tendonitis going to lead to rupture? Well, bilateral rupture is pretty unusual. Achilles can happen. Christian McCaffrey is not really the type of guy that would get it, but he could get it, right? You know what I mean? Like, usually it's bigger guys like the defensive ends and, the linebackers. He's built a little bit differently from that, but it can always happen to any of these high-level sprinting players. But I mean, that guy has tried everything. I think he went to Germany for some special type of cell injections.
He's doing
gyrostim.
Doing it. And here you go. Not to start any rumors here, but the 49ers traded for Washington Commanders starting running back Brian Robinson right before the start of the season. So going back to what do the 49ers know? Even though McCaffrey's saying, I look good, I feel good, I sound good, everything's in order. But the 49ers go, yeah, we're going to trade for another running back, besides what they have. So, if you're in the room, what's the thought process there?
Thought process is you need an insurance policy. I mean, he could do everything he wants, but the problem you have is a lot of this is talk. Like we've talked about before, like we talk about all this tech, but does it really work? Right? Yeah. Is it really getting you that much better? Like, yes, but like, McCaffrey would be good probably without any of this stuff, right? Like he's naturally talented, right? And he's the same thing we talk about with some of these other players, right? Even when they're a little bit injured, they're still better than most. So the challenge is, are you going to be able to pick up? And right, and he knows he's now more on the chopping block than before, right? He's been out so much. Is it worth paying him? Is it worth doing all those things? And hate to say it, he's kind of getting old for a running back.
Yeah, to be he's tremendous.
Lifespan of running backs are his challenge.
Yeah, I mean, he's exciting. He's great to watch. It's just injuries, right? I want to touch on 2 more players, and then we'll get ready to wrap it up. Jonathan Brooks from the Panthers, ACL. The reason I bring it up, because there's biologics, there's some graft shifting. Is this a lavender style kind of surgery that Jonathan Brooks may have gone through? Is it our buddy Chad Lavender? Is he involved with something like this?
I wouldn't be surprised with this one. The challenge here is that the biologic ACL requires a quad. So it's a different type of graft. The issue you have is that even though the quad ACL is a very popular graft, I do a lot of, it's actually a majority of my ACLs, which is the similar thing that what Lavender was saying. The challenge is that patella tendon, which is what most of the professional athletes get, like even Elatrosh, who's amazing surgeon. He likes the quad idea, but he's kind of like in the NFL, he's like, I'm not an NFL player. I'm not going to mess with it. Right. I'm going to do the patella tendon. That's what we've been doing for years. That's the option. And so, but we all know that like nowadays with the media and agents hearing more stuff, like something like the Lavender ACL would get picked up on, and potentially could he return a bit faster? Yes. But we also heard from Lavender, and he wanted to emphasize this is not like 4 months. This is 6 months. So it depends on when he has the ACL tear. Is it even worth it? Right. You know what I mean? Or is it just like the thing is, to me, I tell people there's no downside. If you want to return in the same window, but you want to have the biologics to hopefully help enhance the bone-to-bone, the healing of the tendon, there's no downside but the cost, right? For in the NFL, they don't care because it's small cost. Yeah. But for my a patient this day that asked about the fertilized ACL. They wanted the bio ACL, and I said, here are the risks, here's the benefits from the podcast, here's from understanding my research. And they opted in that sense actually to not do it. But sometimes they play, I have one a couple weeks that wants to do this. They want everything under the sun to get back to the best possible
Gotcha.
level.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to see how he recovers and get a little bit more information. Last but not least, really, he was in the running for defensive player of the NFL last year, the heart and soul of the Detroit Lions. I think if he would have been healthy, I think they could have gone to the Super Bowl. I think they potentially could have beaten the Eagles and advanced. Aiden Hutchinson for the Detroit Lions, went to University of Michigan. Fibula fracture, surgical nail fixation, advanced bone stem. What the hell does all of that mean?
So you said it well, which is good. So basically, we've had this before. Some of the players where they snap the mid shaft. This is actually what Alex Smith had.
Yes,
but his was open. Much worse.
Yeah.
So when you break the middle of the bone and the tibia, it can just be a break, which is bad. It can be a break with a hole. It can break with a bigger hole. And the bigger the hole, the increased risk of infection and wound complications, which is what Alex Smith had.
Yeah.
But a clean break with maybe a poke hole or nothing, usually what they do is they could put a rod down there. The nice thing about the rod is that it's instantaneously stabilized and it's inside the knee. So the incisions are really small, right? You go from a certain angle. You usually put it from the top down in someone's leg, and it can stay there permanently from the kneecap. Correct.
Yeah.
There's 2 ways to do it, but usually from the kneecap area is the way you do it.
You keep it in there permanently, or is this something that's an option to take out? Because I've heard different variations. Go ahead.
So generally, you just take out the screws that hold it in. Imagine you got to you got the big pipe in there, and then you got to pin it, right, to keep it in there. So a lot of people get the screws out because taking the pipe out is a nightmare. You can do it, but you can imagine it's very hard once it grows in to try to pull that thing out.
And things are healing around, right? And they're healing around it as well.
Like we have one guy in our office, our PA, that loves to take them out. So it takes him like 30 minutes of just hammering to get this thing out. And we literally have him come into every case. He gets so excited to help out. But anyhow, so the long story short is like generally we leave the metal in there. And then the advanced stim, I mean, the idea here is like, can we make someone heal faster, right? Like That's the whole point of the biologics. And again, the stim for a general patient would be really hard to get, right? Like I can't get these approved half the time for insurance unless they have a really, really bad issue. But obviously, no big deal. Just throw some money at it and get it to heal. The bone stimulators do help. And so the idea is like anybody's willing to do it. If it was me and I had to pay out of pocket so I could heal and walk faster and run faster 2 months earlier, I'd definitely do it.
Wow. Okay, I'm grossed out a little bit on that one. Before we wrap up, are you? I think you want some trivia, right? You want a little trivia, a little NFL trivia to kick off the season. I know
everybody loves this part.
I know you love it. This is your favorite part. This is better than surgery right now.
That's right.
I love it. Okay, listen. Week 8, if nobody gets hurt, this is since we're talking about injury. Michael Penix formerly from the University of Washington for Atlanta Falcons is going to match up with Tua Tagovailoa. It'll be the first time since 2000, I believe 12, since 2 left-handed quarterbacks have started against each other, which is really, really interesting. Can you name the last? There's only been 2 Super Bowl winners, Super Bowl quarterbacks. Can you name either one of them that have won a Super Bowl? The last left-handed quarterback to win a Super Bowl, one of 2.
I'm like, in my head, I'm trying to think about them playing, but then half the time you see them, they're like you're seeing them from the other direction. So you don't even know. I don't know. We'll say Kurt Warner.
He's not left-handed.
I have no idea. This is absolutely impossible trivia.
All right. So the hard one is Ken Stabler, Jake the Snake, finally got into the Hall of Fame post-mortem. And Steve Young. Steve Young was the last left-handed quarterback. Interesting. There's only been 11 left-handed quarterbacks to come into the NFL since Michael Vick got drafted back in 2001.
That's crazy. Well, it's less common. I mean, I'm left-handed. It's 10%.
Why do you think that, real quick, before we wrap it up? Why do you think that we're not seeing left-handed quarterbacks in the NFL?
Well, first off, there's not an advantage. So if you're not an advantage, like in baseball, there's an advantage, right? Like
you're on to something. That's my thought. I think what you're doing is you're getting left-handed hard throwers and you're getting them to commit to baseball instead of football.
Which is more lucrative. It's much more lucrative.
That's my
So yeah, I mean, I agree with you.
That's my guess why we're not seeing left-handed quarterbacks, but they're going, wait, if you're left-handed and you throw 98, don't go throw a football, go throw a baseball, and we'll make you filthy rich, and a 275-pound man is not going to land on.
Well, I also would say that you don't have to be as good in left-handed. Does that make sense? So like you're not even like they're not even getting that level. Like if they're that good, they're getting recruited hard from the baseball, but like they're just basically baseball's pulling anybody that's a decent thrower that's left-handed.
Yeah.
Because they're so much less common, right? Like if 10% of the population is left-handed, ideally you have the same amount of throwers that are right. You ideally have the same, probably less. You have only 10% that throw as hard as right-handers. That's a small pool. And then they're throwing them so much money on them because they're so uncommon. But that's why you see so many more left-handers in MLB, but it's actually not even close to equal.
All right, let's say goodbye. We went over our time because that's what happens. Thanks for listening to Sports Doc Talk. Check us out, sportsdoctalk.com. We have transcripts. We have shows. Check out our polls. We are getting requests for topics and new shows. Thank you for everyone that's reached out to us. We've had plenty of people reached out and email us. We're very thankful for our guests. So I don't know what else to say. Dr. Garcia, you want to wrap it up?
Yeah. So thanks again to our listeners. And we had a lot of guest requests this summer. So hopefully you get to see some of those show up. And again, if you're interested in being a guest on the show, let us know. Obviously, it's important to us that, we get a lot of requests that may not fit the show book. We're really going to try to stick with this sort of orthopedic sports kind of innovation topic, but it doesn't hurt. Reach out and we'll vet it and see if it works for us. So thank you. We really appreciate everybody.
Let's go Big Blue, baby.